It started with a sound, a soft screech of metal against the cafe's doorframe, and every head turned. The woman sitting near the window froze. Her wheelchair stood perfectly still, but her pulse raced. She didn't expect him. Not like this. Not today. Her blind date. The mechanic. Nora Ellington, 32, had once been the kind of woman who commanded every room she entered. CEO of an automotive empire, sharp in her suits and unshakable in her confidence. But that was before the accident, before the icy road, the spinning headlights, the pain, and the silence that followed. 2 years had passed since she'd felt her legs. 2 years since she'd allowed herself to feel anything. When her best friend convinced her to try a blind date, Nora almost laughed. Who would want to date a woman in a wheelchair? She had said quietly. But loneliness has a way of whispering louder at night, and she agreed. On one condition. No pity. No charity. So she sat there, flawless in a navy dress, a touch of lipstick, hair sleeked back, still the powerful woman she used to be on the outside. Yet inside, her heart trembled like a cracked engine struggling to start. And then he walked in. Jake Turner. Grease-stained hands, faded jeans, the faint smell of motor oil following him like a loyal dog. He looked nothing like the men Nora used to meet in boardrooms or five-star restaurants. He wasn't smooth or polished. But his eyes, warm, brown, sincere, caught hers. And for the first time in months, she didn't feel invisible. Miss Ellington? He asked, his voice rough but gentle. I'm Jake. Sorry if I'm late. Traffic was a mess, and one of my customers' cars decided to quit living. Nora blinked. It's fine, she replied, unsure whether to smile. He sat down, clearly nervous. You're probably wondering what a mechanic's doing here. Blind dates aren't really my thing. Same, she said softly. But life surprises us sometimes. There was a silence, but not an awkward one. The cafe around them buzzed with quiet chatter. Jake spoke about engines like they were living things, how every car had a heart that just needed to be understood. Nora found herself listening, really listening, and when he laughed at his own jokes, she realized she'd smiled. Actually smiled for the first time in years. He noticed. That's a nice smile, he said without thinking, then blushed. Sorry, it's okay, Nora interrupted, her voice trembling slightly. I haven't used it in a while. Jake's expression softened. He didn't ask why she was in the wheelchair, and that, more than anything, made her curious. Most people couldn't help but glance at her legs, or offer a too sweet, "You're so brave." But Jake didn't. He just talked, listened, treated her like she was her, not her condition. The hours passed like minutes. And for the first time, Nora didn't dread being seen. But just as the evening light faded, Jake's phone buzzed. His face changed, anxious, apologetic. I'm really sorry, Nora, my brother. He's at the shop, and the lift gave out while he was under a truck. I have to go. Her heart twisted. Of course, go. He stood, hesitated, then said quietly, I'd like to see you again, if that's okay. She nodded before she could think. And when he left, she stared after him, wondering why her chest felt so full and so afraid. The next morning, Nora couldn't stop thinking about him. The sound of his laugh, the warmth in his eyes, the way he made her feel normal. But her world wasn't built for second chances. Her board demanded results, investors whispered doubts, and every glance at her reflection reminded her of the woman she used to be, and the one she no longer recognized. Still, she found herself being driven to Jake's auto shop. The building looked worn but alive. Music played from inside, and Jake stood near an open hood, wiping grease off his hands. He froze when he saw her. Nora, she smiled awkwardly. You ran out before I could finish my coffee, he laughed. You came all the way here for coffee? Maybe I came to see if you fixed that customer's car. They talked again, surrounded by engines and the smell of gasoline. She listened as he explained how he learned to repair cars at 16, how his family's small shop struggled to stay open after his dad passed away. This place is all I've got, he said, not with pity, but with pride. And then something unexpected happened. Nora looked at the car he was repairing and noticed the design flaw in the braking system. It was from one of her company's earlier models. This part, she said, pointing, that's one of mine. My company built this. Jake looked surprised. Wait, you're that Nora Ellington? Ellington Motors? Her eyes lowered. I was. Before the accident. I haven't stepped in the office for months. Jake leaned against the car. So what, you're still her? You didn't stop being who you are because of what happened. Something broke open inside her. For 2 years, people had either pitied her or avoided talking about her career. But here he was, covered in oil and sunlight, reminding her of something she'd buried: her worth. She offered a trembling laugh. "You make it sound simple." "It is," Jake said. "You fix cars by finding what's broken and working until it runs again." People aren't that different. That night, Nora couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, his words echoing. Maybe she wasn't finished. Maybe she could still lead, still inspire. Weeks passed. They saw each other again and again. Jake taught her to repair engines, and she helped him modernize his business with her corporate insight. They built something rare: trust, friendship, hope. But not everything was easy. One evening, Nora's board offered her position back, but on one condition: cut ties with Jake. "It's not a good look," they said coldly. "The CEO of Ellington Motors shouldn't be dating a mechanic." She sat in silence. Her old self might have agreed, but then she remembered Jake's words: "You fix what's broken." The next morning, she rolled into the boardroom, shoulders straight. "If being CEO means I have to give up the only person who reminded me I'm alive," she said, "then I'd rather rebuild something new, from the ground up." When she left the company that day, she didn't feel loss. She felt freedom. Months later, a new sign gleamed above Jake's shop: Ellington and Turner Auto Solutions. A partnership. A future? And as she watched Jake teach a young intern how to fix a spark plug, Nora smiled again, this time without hesitation. Because sometimes, love doesn't just mend the heart, it gives it back the power to move. And that blind date everyone thought was a disaster, it turned out to be the day Nora Ellington learned to live again.